Dealing with a narcissist can often feel intimidating because they'll literally stoop to any level with their noxious attempts to gain attention, control, and power over others. Wouldn't it be nice to turn the tables for a change? Well, by the end of this video, that's exactly what you're going to know how to do. More specifically, how to make a narcissist panic. Now, before I begin this video, I just want to quickly announce that the free one-to-one consult with either me or a member of my team for the Freedom Class program is open. So make sure you click the link in the description below to sign up for your free call to see if we'd be a good fit to work together. And if you're new here, welcome. Please take a second to say hello and introduce yourself in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. My name is Tammy M. Joyce. I'm an empowerment life coach and creator of the Freedom Class. I help people take their power back and heal from painful family of origin and romantic relationship patterns so they can finally live their best lives in peace, confidence, and freedom. So let's talk about how to make a destructive narcissist panic. First, it's important to know that in spite of outward appearances, when we're talking about people who land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism, they have a narcissistic pattern, right? These people, wherever they land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism, you can be sure they're actually fragile, frightened, insecure little bullies, completely shame-based at their core. So with that in mind, nothing terrifies a narcissist more than the threat of being found out for who they actually are. If you want to make a destructive narcissist panic, point out flaws, discrepancies in their story. Show up with irrefutable proof or evidence. I'm not saying they're going to roll over and agree with what you might be presenting. But if you're looking to make them panic, shining a light on their bullshit and potentially exposing them for who they really are is the fastest way to send them into panic mode. Nothing terrifies a destructive narcissist more, like I said, than exposure, which really boils down to not having control over your perception of them, over how others see them. If a narcissist feels that they are unable to manipulate your perception or the perception of others in terms of how they are viewed, they're gonna panic. So few things are more destabilizing for someone who lands on the spectrum of destructive narcissism than not being able to manipulate or control how others see them. In addition, if you want to make a narcissist panic, show up with genuine self-esteem and personal power. This equates to strength of character and authenticity, which will make it virtually impossible for a narcissist to manipulate or control you. They can't control your perception of yourself, they can't control your perception of others, and they certainly can't control your perception of them. Few things are going to be more destabilizing for a destructive narcissist, again, in addition to potential exposure, than dealing with someone who actually carries personal power, a sense of self-worth and self-esteem. Why? Because there's no fear of loss on your part when you're operating from this place of personal power and self-esteem. You're not afraid of being abandoned by the narcissist because you don't abandon yourself. And this in itself will trigger all of the narcissist abandonment issues and send them right into panic mode. Another way to make a narcissist panic: stay cool. Holding on to your cool. For example, your ability to say something like, I see, or fine, and then silence, not another word. In other words, your ability to deliver a 1 or 2 word, super succinct acknowledgement, yeah, I heard you and I'm not playing. Right? You're able to endure the uncomfortable silence that follows. Your ability to remain completely unfazed at their attempts to provoke, intimidate, threaten, or terrorize you. In fact, your ability to show up adopting the attitude of, remaining completely unfazed, they can't rattle you, absolutely gives you the upper hand. Silence and disinterest, complete ambivalence, being bulletproof, getting yourself to the place where you can actually show up in that fashion are very powerful when it comes to knocking a destructive narcissist off balance and sending them into panic mode. Now, the next way to make a narcissist panic is establishing and, more importantly, maintaining no contact. When a narcissist attempts to hoover you back into the abuse cycle, and if you want to learn more about how to respond to narcissistic hoovering, you can watch this video here. But suffice to say, hoovering you back into the abuse cycle is all about love bombing and reigniting the idealization phase. Oh, baby, baby, how much I missed you and I can't live without you, and yada, yada, and on it goes. Quickly, usually quite quickly, followed by another round of the devaluation phase, and then ultimately the discard phase. No fun for anyone, right? So establishing and maintaining no contact with someone who lands on the spectrum of destructive narcissism and actually following through and meaning business will absolutely send them into panic mode. When they're reaching out, attempting to reconnect and again, hoover you back into that painful, destructive abuse cycle, and they're getting no response, they're getting nowhere, they can't get through no matter how hard they try. You've blocked them across all social media platforms. You've told anyone who might be a little minion or a flying monkey or any type of go-between that you're not interested, and that door is closed permanently and they cannot get through. You're communicating to them that they are, in fact, the least interesting, least appealing, least attractive, completely unworthy of your time, energy, or attention, never mind anything else. That absolutely sends them into panic mode. They don't know what to do with that. They absolutely do not know what to do with that. When you follow through and maintain, at the very least, gray rock, if you can't go full-blown no contact. And I get we can't always go full-blown no contact right out of the gate, or sometimes we're in tricky situations where we just simply cannot or aren't ready to go full-blown no contact. So gray rock is your next best bet if you want to make a narcissist panic. If you want to learn more about how to use the gray rock method, you can watch this video here. Point being, when they realize that they no longer have the ability to have a negative effect on you, a positive effect on you, any effect on you, they cannot manipulate or control you. They can't even get through to get even the slightest hit of narcissistic supply. You've completely turned the tables because now you're the one giving them the cold shoulder rather than the other way around. Panic time, absolute panic time for a narcissist. Now, comment below and tell me whether or not you are having any difficulty maintaining no contact with a destructive narcissist in your life, and whether or not I can help support you in that regard. Now, if establishing and maintaining no contact is not an option for you, like I said, gray rock is certainly your next best bet. But if you want to make a narcissist panic, boundaries is another way to send them into panic mode. Learning how to stand in your power as the sovereign being that you are, holding on to yourself, breathing, not giving your power away, and setting healthy limits and boundaries. Few things will make a high spectrum destructive narcissist or a medium spectrum destructive narcissist, or even someone on the lower end of the destructive narcissist rating scale, panic than having to deal with someone who has the capacity to say no or no thank you and mean it, hold their ground, follow through. No is a full sentence, nothing more to say. Developing the capacity to set healthy limits and boundaries with the difficult people in our lives should be taught in elementary school, in my opinion. This is a skill set that few of us have learned, and an absolute necessity if we want to live a happy, healthy, functional life. We have to learn how to say no and mean it and not waver and not follow through. And your ability to do so with someone who lands on the spectrum of destructive narcissism, first of all, if you're questioning whether or not the individual is a destructive narcissist, set a boundary, set a limit, say no. You'll find out very quickly who you're dealing with. Why? Because you'll send them right into panic mode. Now, the tricky thing about this is avoiding inflicting unnecessary narcissistic injury and thus inciting narcissistic rage. You want them to understand that this is not a level playing field. You are no pushover, and toying with you is going to cost them one way or another. Now, if you can communicate this effectively, great, but be sure you're not in a fragile, wounded, vulnerable place while you're attempting to do this. You want to be sure you are strong enough to endure the backlash that will inevitably come your way. Here's the thing. People who land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism, remember, insecure, frightened, fragile, shame-based little bullies, right? So they are incredibly vindictive and spiteful, beyond vindictive and spiteful, in fact. So there will be backlash. Be sure you're prepared to weather that, because you can count on it coming. And with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. My friends, I hope you got some value out of this today. If you liked what you heard, remember to give me a like, drop a comment, and let me know what your biggest takeaway was. And be sure to share it with your friends if you think that they'd get some value out of it. And as I mentioned at the top of the video, we do have spots available for the free one-to-one consult with either myself or a member of my team for the Freedom Class program. So be sure to check out the link in the description below to apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with us. And if you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. And as always, I will leave you with this. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Bye for now.